Hello moms, so today in this video we are going to see how to cultivate positivity effortlessly. I'm sure you must have heard about positive affirmations, but this video is about deeper concepts which will develop positivity effortlessly within you. You will become a positive person naturally if you apply these 7 concepts in your life. So there are 7 concepts. If applied in your life, child will imbibe it from you. So all this work that we do is to set right the prefrontal lobe that develops in a child at 9 years of age. The prefrontal cortex makes up to over 10% of the volume of the brain and thus is involved in many functions. There is one category of cognition, however, that the prefrontal cortex is probably best known for, that is executive function. Setting right thoughts, setting right intentions will result in right cognition, or to say right execution. So the human brain develops from back to front, so the prefrontal cortex develops lastly. This part of the brain manages processes such as reasoning, logic, problem solving, planning, memory, focus and attention, developing and carrying out goals, stopping impulses, developing personality. So if the prefrontal lobe is handled appropriately and developed rightly, there is no way that the child will not succeed. The child has to succeed. That's why I wanted to share about some knowledge about prefrontal cortex, and this develops between 9 to 25. Actually from 5 to 25, but the developing skills happens at the age of 9. So I have 7 concepts with me which will effortlessly make you a positive person. So, are you ready? Let's dive into 7 concepts. The first concept is spilled milk concept. That is, learn from your mistakes and let it go. Please do not drag it and carry it around. Your son spilled a whole glass of milk on the couch this morning, and again. This is maybe the second or third time that he has made the same mistake. And you have to admit, you were upset, right? You were more than upset. You were mad. So parents, there is a lesson here for all parents. How you respond to your child during times of disappointment and stress is incredibly important. Your kids are going to disappoint you, period. It is an inevitable part of being young. And when they do, our natural reaction will be to bark at them. Why in the world did you do that? Or you have to think before you do something. Don't we all yell at our children like this? The research shows that these kinds of aggressive responses are more than just annoying to your children. Over time, aggressive responses lead to mere compliance from children and ultimately to dependent adults. So if you are overly focused on boundaries and neglect warmth in your attempt to provide discipline, your children will probably struggle to be confident adults. Please understand. Now, some of you are keenly aware of how damaging aggression from parents can be. You have lived it in your family of origin with your own parents. Individuals who are determined to avoid replicating painful criticism from parents typically end up being passive with their own kids. So, the idea here is, if the milk is spilled, it's done. You can't go back to the past. So what's next? Clean it up. That's how your approach should be towards the life. And please understand, your child is a child. They are in developing stage and they need your support. The second concept is tiny speck concept. Just to remind us now and then that we are just a tiny speck in this whole wild world or the universe. Tiny speck concept makes us realize that there is this huge universe, and within that universe there is a galaxy, one of the galaxies, that is Milky Way galaxy. And in that Milky Way galaxy there is a solar system, and in that solar system we are one of the planets, and in that planet there is a continent, and in that continent there is a country, and in that country there is a city, and in that city there is a district, and in that district there is a area, and within that area you have a small tiny house, and in that small tiny house you are a very very tiny person. So my question is, how come your problem be bigger than you? So this concept is to make us realize that we are just a small speck and our problems can't be bigger than us. So that they can understand this concept more better. So idea here is to, in the face of adversity or in the face of something very gloomy, you have to remind yourself of this tiny speck concept, to develop positivity, to come out of that gloominess, to come out of that emotional scar, to come out of that problem and try to find solutions. Instead of crying, you try to come out of the problem and try to find a solution for yourself. So this way it deeply develops a positive concept, positivity, and it develops, to say, grit, perseverance, self-efficacy in child, and it will be helpful lifelong. The third concept is nothing is permanent concept. In this world, nothing is permanent. You all must be aware of that. Whether it is happiness, sadness, or anything here in this world, nothing is permanent. Whatever was there 10 years ago is not there today, and whatever is here today may not be available. It is a very broad concept. I mean, we can talk about it every single thing. Even in our atoms, the cells, they are not the same. It is all changing, and nothing remains permanent. So again, it comes to the first concept. There is no point crying over the spilled milk. So if we are happy, we don't care about all this. We are naturally positive. But all these things are required when you feel sad, when things don't happen the way you want it to happen, and then you feel sad or you feel bad. These concepts apply at that time. If you're happy, if things are going around you as smooth as possible and everything is happening according to your wish, then you don't need all these concepts. But these concepts are required when you are unhappy, your child is unhappy. Probably your child wanted to get selected for some program and he or she didn't get selected. He might be gloomy. How to motivate your child at that time? Whatever you teach your child, the way you treat your child and teach, that is what they learn, and that is how they become who they become. So this prefrontal cortex is very, very important. The development of this prefrontal cortex in a right way is very, very important. So let's go to the next concept, that is acknowledge emotion as is concept. It is like nowadays everywhere people are talking about spreading, talking about positive affirmations, being positive, being happy. Is it possible that you are very sad and very gloomy, and then you think, I am happy, I am happy, I am happy? It doesn't work that way. To come out of that gloomy situation, you really have to understand the situation and so parents, how to be aware of the emotions. So you can do this exercise for yourself. The more and more you are aware of your own emotions, you will be able to teach better to your child how to be aware of his or her emotions. First thing you have to do is notice and name your emotions. Start by just noticing different emotions as you feel them. Name them to yourself. For example, you might say, I feel proud when a class presentation goes well. I feel disappointed at not doing well on a test. Or I feel friendly when sitting with a group at lunch. So you can name your emotions. And you should be aware of what emotion you're going through. Track one emotion each day. These are all exercises, small exercises that you need to do. You need to cultivate within you, and you also you ask your child to do the same. Pick a familiar emotion like joy and track it throughout the day. Notice how often you feel it and when. Whenever that emotion shows up, you can simply make a mental note to yourself or jot it down in a journal. Notice where you are, who you are with, and what you are doing when that emotion is present. Note whether the emotion is mild, medium, or strong, and if it has different intensities at different times. So all this you can make note of it. The third thing you can do is build your emotional vocabulary. How many emotions can you name? Try going through the alphabet and thinking of one emotion for each letter. Or you can be very creative as well. I'm just giving you an example. Think of related emotions that vary in intensity. For example, you might be irritated, annoyed, mad, angry, irate, or fuming. See how many of these emotion families you can come up with. Again, this is just an example. You can bundle up your own set of names and emotions. Because for me and for you, how we perceive each word could be different. So why we ask everyone, why we are asking to be aware of the emotions is trying to be happy all the time alienates us from our emotions, which simply isn't healthy. In fact, recent psychological research indicates that emotional avoidance is one of the main causes of many psychological issues. So with this, we have come to the end of fourth concept. Now we'll move on to the fifth concept, that is volunteering concept. Do you realize that people who volunteer have been found to have higher self-esteem and overall well-being than those who don't? People who engage in kind acts become happier over time. There you go. If you make yourself and your child do volunteering without expecting anything, without any returns, in any form, then you see the magic happening around you and with your child. So naturally that child will be positive. Now let's move on to the sixth concept. That is, your child is growing. Your child's cognition, social development, physical development, emotional development, everything is in a developing stage, right? So the child looks at the world in so many different ways. So it's possible the child comes up with awe moments in a day. It could be very simple, like recognizing and appreciating small moments of happiness and beauty, like beautiful sunset, sounds of birds, ants walking. A child could find excitement in anything, something new and exciting discovered by your child. Record those moments, document those moments. You can be as creative as possible, how you want to do recordings of those moments, how you want to capture those moments. It's up to you. But capturing those moments are very, very essential. You can play them back, and it itself will create a different aura. With this, we come to the last, seventh concept, that is developing skills and trying new activities. So, as I mentioned earlier in the beginning of this video session, that the prefrontal cortex develops at the age of 9 years. If you go to the Google, they will give you many variations of ages. Some will say it starts at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So according to us, it starts at 9. The development starts at 9. So developing skills is very, very essential. To achieve all that we think, it's basically like to think, to plan, to reason, to manage our emotions, to make decisions, to problem solve. All these major feats are done through frontal lobe. High level thinking skills that so often we take for granted. All these are done through frontal lobe. So this all stem from the brain power of our frontal lobe. The human brain develops from back to front. So the prefrontal cortex develops lastly. This part of the brain manages processes such as reasoning, logic, problem solving, planning, memory, focus and attention, developing and carrying out goals, stopping your impulses, developing your personality. So now do you understand why we are talking about ages 9 to 12? This is the right time. This is the right time to develop the skill. This is the right time to find out your child's potential and develop that particular skill. And also to develop the frontal cortex in a right way, so that the child becomes a humble, positive, beautiful human being. So I would, as a end note, I would like to tell you how you can successfully develop your child's prefrontal cortex. First and foremost thing is model healthy emotional intelligence. That whatever you show up, the child learns that. You may scream at the top of your voice, make your bed as soon as you get up in the morning. But if you don't do the same, it's 0% chances that the child will listen to you. So you start to make bed first, and then you say, then probably your child will listen. Patience in their moments of struggle. Please understand your child. The child is going through so much of changes, so much of development. They themselves are poor thing going through struggle. You have to understand them and show patience. Practice empathy. And do not take their behavioral issues personally. If you understand them, you will not have any problem with their behavioral issues, because You have to understand that they are going through something that they are not aware of. They themselves are dealing with their changes. And these behavior issues, you look at them as opportunities to develop the child. Be there for your child during these moments. Just be there. The child who feels they have strong safety net develops emotional intelligence easier. Consider that all of your interactions with others are reflective, driven by your goals and values, or reactive, driven by your feelings right now. So if you consider these two, then you automatically, your behavior or reaction or reflectiveness, it all depends. If you consider, try to control your upsetness, and when a child is acting like a child especially in trying times, repeat to yourself, his frontal cortex is underdeveloped. So this might help you. Okay, and then there is self-regulations. As I mentioned earlier in my videos, have your charts, timetables, schedules, weekly family time. Do so much for them that it will pay you definitely. I could continue, but my objective is not to stress you out. Awareness of your child's developmental stages and making a conscious effort to stay in control of your emotions positively affect your child's development. And this was said by Dr. Laura Markham, that our number one responsibility as parents is to pay attention to our emotions, but not to act on